Hi, I'm Jay Fallon, and thanks for listening to the Slippery Slope. I've got, okay, I'm laughing. Don't tell anyone. Don't tell anyone, but I'll tell you a little story, which just happened. I just did an episode of the Slippery Slope. I was sitting here in front of the camera, bringing up this story that I wanted to talk about the ABC and the Grace Tame podcast issue and all this stuff. I finished the episode, have my little spiel. I'm Jay Fallon. Thanks for listening to the Slippery Slope. And then I realized I hadn't hit record. Yeah, awesome stuff. So, hey, don't tell anyone this is the kind of mistake that I made. Crazy stuff. Hey, so look, I just want to talk about this. This, the ABC boss, big call on Tame podcast, Grace Tame. Absolutely despicable. Grace Tame was signed on for a new ABC podcast before she made controversial Israel chants. The ABC managing director Hugh Marks has said the former Australian of the Year led globalised the Intifada chants during Israeli President Isaac Herzog's visit to Australia earlier this year. The ABC announced earlier this month that Ms. Tame would host a new four-part series podcast. It's called Autistic AF. This is one thing I don't understand. Back in the day, I remember watching the ABC when I was a kid. My nan always had the ABC on. Anyway, I was like, why watch the ABC? It's such a boring channel. It just has news on. I did like watching in the afternoons. You'd watch Monkey Magic, the Kung Fu show, Monkey Magic, or Doctor Who. Back when Doctor Who was actually a good show. So things like that. They had some good programs on, but yeah. But the ABC was always this kind of straight down the line news broadcaster, just stuck to the facts. They didn't want to, they weren't pushing boundaries, pushing moral boundaries. They were just talking about facts. So you wouldn't see something like a headline or a show called Autistic AF, because obviously AF stands for Autistic as F. Why would you do that? Why? You're a public funded broadcasting network. You don't need to have headlines like this. It's just why? Why? Anyway, this is the road that the ABC have gone in. This is why you can't respect the ABC. This is part of the reason why I believe they should be defunded. Anyway, so they've got this program. She's got this podcast delving into her experiences of being an autistic woman with interviews with, let's say in brackets, experts and other women, because that's who we need to hear from, so-called experts. Anyway, Mr. Marks told the ABC National Radio, Radio National Breakfast that he understood why people felt Ms. Tame shouldn't have an ABC program given the controversy. So if you understand it, why are you doing it? Because there's no consequences. There's never any consequences for this people. We get our money from the public. We just get a blank check, $1 billion. Sorry, it's not a blank check. We get this $1 billion. It's handed to us. We don't really have to answer to anyone. We don't have to, you know, give any answer for anything that we do, any of the decisions that we make. There's nothing, no consequences. So I'm telling you, and I'm telling you, yep, this is what's happening, and who cares? We do what we want to do because we get given the money, and there's nothing you can do about it. He goes on to say, but I think if you look at the program itself, it's a great podcast that she's done. If it's such a great podcast, go out and make it yourself, Ms. Tame, without getting funded by the public, by the taxpayer. If it's such a great podcast, go out and do it that way. And then we'll see. Then we'll see. Because a lot of podcasts just fail. If it's such a great podcast, take a gamble on yourself, take a risk on yourself, fund it yourself, or get someone to fund it for you, whatever, and see if people really do want to hear from you. Instead of getting all this funding from the ABC, from the taxpayer. So anyway, go on to say she's done a great job, great topic, blah, blah, blah. I'm sure will be of real interest and real importance to many Australians who suffer from those conditions, and particularly young Australians and young Australian women, Mr. Marks said. So that's a picture of Grace Tame right there, if you're listening to this. Anyway, so right-wing media figure Avi Yemeni, who is a Jewish Australian, He's asked us ABC entertainer Charlie Pickering whether he felt Tame's appointment was appropriate. Pickering has said, I do actually think it's problematic. That's my personal opinion. As a Jewish Australian, there's a complete misunderstanding of a lot of the words that were said, a lot of the words that were said, and what the true meaning of them are. A lot of people are using words and phrases that have meaning well beyond what they think they do. The Australian Institute, the Australia Institute of Chief Political Analyst Amy, how do you pronounce her name? Remikis, I'm not sure, said, I'm sorry, Amy, for butchering your name there. Anyway, said attacks on Ms. Tame in the wake of Pickering's comments had been unhinged in a Blue Sky post. That tells you all about this Amy. She did it in a Blue Sky post. Precious moments. So, yeah, anyway, so there's a picture of Pickering right there. So, Charlie Pickering. The attacks against Grace Tame have been disingenuous and unhinged, deliberately lacking context to cause fear and harm. Enough, she said. Well, I would say that Tame's comments, they are disingenuous and unhinged and totally lacking in context and totally lacking in any facts. They are factually biased because they don't rely on facts. Going on, the podcast was launched months after Ms. Tame lost speaking gigs around the nation in what she described as an ongoing national smear campaign. I don't think it's a national smear campaign. Tame said some things which are factually just untrue. They were just downright lies, and she's paying the consequences. But yet we have these people stand up and they always want to blame. Oh no, they always want to blame everything else, and they don't look at, well, what the person actually said was not true. People just really don't want to hear from liars. People don't want to hear generally, people who just tell these absolute lies. And so that's why she lost all these speaking gigs. If she was speaking the truth, if she was telling some facts, she might lose a couple of gigs, but she'd find it somewhere else. But people can't associate with people who just say blatant lies. This is the big issue. But these kinds of people don't want to face those facts. So she's gone on to defend her actions in an interview with ABC radio host Hamish McDonald, saying she was a human rights activist and advocated for the safety of all human beings, no matter their background. So we'll see in a second that this is just another lie. This is just some more propaganda because she's a human rights advocate and activist, but only some humans, not all humans. She picks and chooses. So if you're Israeli, if you're a Jewish person, and if you live in Israel, you know, you're an Israeli citizen. She doesn't advocate for your rights. Okay, the women who were raped, murdered, children, unborn children, ripped out of the bellies of Israeli women. She doesn't advocate for them. No, as we'll see in a second. So, opposition communications spokeswoman Sarah Henderson said last week the ABC's decision was deeply offensive in a lengthy media release. So the ABC's shock decision, this is what she's saying, Sarah Henderson, shock decision to employ as a podcast host Grace Tame, who described corroborated reports of Hamas's, so these are corroborated reports that Hamas sexually assaulted, had sexual violence, committed sexual violence against Israeli women. It's been corroborated, yet Grace Tame described it as propaganda, which has been debunked. And then she led a pro-Palestine rally chanting globalize the intifada is untenable. So these reports have been corroborated. There is video evidence that was filmed by the Hamas people themselves when they were carrying out the attack on Israel in, what year was it now? 2023, I think. Or 22, I can't remember when it was now. So when they were carrying out this attack in October of that year, when it happened at the music festival, and they killed over 1,000 people. They raped women, committed extremely grotesque, violent acts, and they filmed it themselves. There is video evidence which has been corroborated. It's all been corroborated, authenticated, okay? And yet Grace Tame comes out and she believes this is just propaganda. So she's a human rights, great human rights activist. If you're Hamas committing atrocities, she'll stand by you. If you're an Israeli woman who's been brutally attacked, unborn child murdered, just some propaganda, according to Grace Tame. So this is why people are so offended at the appointment of Grace Tame and by the ABC funding her podcast. And like I said, the ABC being funded by the public purse, by taxpayers. If you're Australian, funded by us. Look, when it comes to people like Grace Tame and people of her ilk, it doesn't bother me that they have these opinions and they say these things. This is what happens in the world. People have different opinions. Some people seem to be able to chase down the facts and find out what really happened and understand the big picture and understand what's going on. And other people are weak-minded individuals who don't seem to understand the bigger picture and don't seem to understand facts. They don't understand truth. They are just deluded and delusional. But you can't be scared of people speaking out saying these things. The real issue I have with all these things is we have the ABC, which is funded by the Australian public. They should not, if they're going to continue down this road of left-leaning propaganda, they should be defunded. They should not be supporting someone like Grace Tame. They should be having shows on which just talk about facts, just facts, okay, and not going down left-wing propaganda shows. That should not be what the ABC is about. It should just be about the facts, news facts. And if you're going to have opinion pieces on there, well, you have to have from both sides, opposing opinions. But this isn't what the ABC does. It time and time again just shows that they are one-eyed. It is left-leaning propaganda, left-wing propaganda, and that's what they believe. They support anything that is anti-Israel, anti-Judeo-Christian principles. Well, then they're all in support of it. All in support of it. They are just all in. And if that's why you want to be, well, then you don't get funding from the public. You get defunded, and then you sink or swim. If people really want to hear from you, well, then people will watch. You'll get funding from other areas. But I think you will find very quickly that a great deal of the public in Australia don't support your vision for news and the way you present the news. They don't support your left-leaning ideology. And what made this country great is that it is founded on Judeo-Christian principles. And yet the ABC consistently shows that they are anti-Judeo-Christian principles, they are anti-family, they are anti-anything Christian, anything moral, anything ethical, anything which, if it's all supporting the degradation of the family unit, the ABC is all in support of it. That's what they want. That's what they love. But if it's anything that would support a biblical point of view of the family unit and of the way society should run, the ABC is against it. That's why they support someone like Grace Tame. And like I said, I'm not against Grace Tame particularly having a podcast. Great, have a podcast. But don't get funded by the public purse. Go out and see if you can do it, and people really do want to hear your voice. Well, then people will listen. But get the funding from other places. You don't get the funding from taxpayers. But this is the problem that we have in Australia. we're realistically just a socialist nation at this point, completely socialist, in my opinion. And when you've got a government like our current Labor government, you see, obviously, this is we brought this upon ourselves. Anyway, let me know what you think. What do you think about Grace Tame's little podcast? More importantly, I believe, what do you think about the ABC and the funding situation? Again, I'll say it, the ABC should be defunded. See if you can keep going it alone, doing it without public funding. Then we'll see. Then we'll see how things go for you. Then we'll see maybe things change from being this completely left-leaning ideological monster that you are. Anyway, this is all just my opinion. I'm not funded by the ABC or anyone else. I'm funded by my own monies. So please support me. Check out my music. J space Fallon, Fallon, on Spotify, Apple Music, J Fallon Music, yeah. YouTube, check out my music on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, all that good stuff. Give me a couple of streams or something. That's the way anyway I get my funding for this stuff, not from the ABC. Just saying. This is all just my opinion. And let me know what you think. I really do. I look at all your comments, all the comments that I can, and very interesting. So thanks for listening to The Slippery Slope.
They just fuel a desire that will take me higher. I'm on fire because nothing's going